Now this one ain't going to be in front of the wood heater because it's sort of hot. It's got really quite hot in here. Now, I want to talk a little bit about weeds, and there's several different options to getting rid of them, of course. Physical removal, digging them out with a thing that looks like a hoe that they call a mattock. I've got one, my father's got one, we've got a few of them around here actually. I think he's actually got two. Yeah, he does. You can dig them out physically with the small things. Some things are big, you've got to take them out with a chainsaw or a tractor, and then make a point of either poisoning the regrowth or poisoning the stump, or both. And, you know, if you can poison the stump, you do that and then kill any regrowth that comes up. And the other one is just outright spraying them with poison. Now, I've recently come across another one, which I'll talk about in a second, another weed that I was unaware of until recently. But, you know, some of it you can burn and some of it you just put in landfill. And depends on the nature of the plant and whatnot. But a lot of times I've been putting a certain one in landfill that's got a lot of seeds and is a real issue and is not something you want to burn because the seeds are liable to blow off in the wind if you do burn it. But as for things like African boxthorn, you know, those seeds are damn everywhere anyway. And in my bonfire videos, that's what we're burning there is African boxthorn. We've still got a little bit more to go. We'll do that in the spring. Now, the burning option, I've got a current weed that I've only recently found out is an actual weed, and I've chopped that out, and some of the little sprouted seeds around the base of these plants, I've been spraying those. But it's sort of like a bush, and it's not prickly, fortunately, but what I do notice is it's very springy, and it goes out quite wide. And it's very hard to get it into the bin to send it off to landfill, but I've worked out something else as well. The seeds, there's more or less none left, but the ones that are there when they are there, and the leaves are all in the upper part of the plant, which is all on very fine twigs on the plant. And what I've basically worked out I can do is I can chop near the base of these to cut them off. And then what I do is I snip the tops off, and I get a whole bunch of these little twigs, which, because they're all fine, they can press together quite easily in the bin. And that's all the ones that contain the seeds and the leaves. So, you know, I can easily, you know, that's the part I want to get rid of, obviously, is the seeds. So by cutting the top off, you know, I cut the whole plant down, and then I sit there and I cut the top off and get hold of all the smaller bits and put them in the bin, and then I'm left with the base and all the larger bits at the bottom. And because these bits are large, they're hard to bend because they're thick. So it's very hard to compact them. And as a result, you know, it fills up your bin straight away because they're so wide and they're so hard to compact. They just take up too much room in your bin. Furthermore, it's not really an issue because they've got no seeds on them, or any leaves for that matter. So I leave those bits aside. And what I've been doing tonight is getting those bits that I've left aside, chopping them up with the big, like your, not your hedge trimmers, but your pruning shears. You know the ones like you got secateurs, and it's got like a secateurs end on it, and then you got like two big arms, and you grab hold of that, and you know, you can chop through, you know, stuff that's nearly 2 inches thick. I've been using them to chop these into little chunks that'll fit in my wood heater, and I've thrown them in my wood heater, and I've had another log going in there, sort of thing, and a lot of red embers in it and all that. And then I've gone and thrown these in, and you wouldn't believe it, these things have literally only been cut a few days ago, and they're still damp enough inside, quite wet, they're still sort of green pretty much, but they're still thin. as in nothing bigger than 2 inches. Most of them aren't much more than about 3/4 of an inch. And so I chop those up into smaller bits and throw them in the fire. And first of all, they just, steam a lot and muck around. And then, sure as eggs, within 20 minutes, the whole lot of it lights up and you're sitting there, and next thing the fire starts getting going, it gets real hot. And what do you know? The whole lot burns and you got a whole lot more embers in there. So you can, give it a while, and when they start to die down, throw some more in. You don't want to throw them in all real quick because it gets so hot so quick it's not funny. And I'm sitting here in some little thin polyester summer shirt and I'm sweating. Not joking. So I'm going to wait a little bit longer before I put the next batch in. But you can't sort of just stick them in on their own because they're too wet. But if you've got an existing fire, you can sort of throw them in. And these bits that were thicker and harder, wasted room in your bin because they didn't have any seeds on them, you can set them aside, and when you got the time, chop them up into bits and throw them in your fire and dispose of them by burning them. You've got to be very careful of this method because some seeds are activated by fire. This particularly includes tree seeds, but there's not a great ton of them, but there are enough of them. And if you know the specifics of your plant that you're attacking, especially if you've got access to a government file and government recommendations on that plant, you will be able to find out if these seeds are activated by fire. And the majority actually aren't, but there's some that are, and you may be surprised which ones are or are not. Some of them, some certain trees, you've literally got to have enough heat hit them before the seeds are able to even be germinated. But yeah, this does happen with trees, and I think there's, I forget, there's some tree seeds in a particular catalogue I was looking at, and they said you had to do the same thing. They refer to it as what looks like scarify, SCARIFY. And how they usually do it, they just put them in boiling water. But those of you who know a lot about trees probably know all about that anyway. But yeah, there's different options there available to you. And that's an option I've found that allows me to actually get a decent amount of the real, problem area. In other words, the bit that holds the seed pods in the bin, without just filling it up with larger sticks that don't want to compress, and allows me to get rid of them in other ways. I would be a little bit wary on some things, particularly wattles in this country, and I've noticed African boxthorns the same. They are woods with very high silica levels. Although you may get some nice trunks in some of these larger weeds, like your bush tree weeds, you may not want to cut them because, quite frankly, they wear your chainsaw out so fast it's not funny. I mean, you got to see, you make 14 cuts or something like that, and your chainsaw blade is absolutely buggered. 14 cuts or something that's only 4 inches thick, and you're thinking, what the hell is going on here? But that's the thing, that some of these things, while you may have nice big chunks of wood and you think I can use that in the fire later, don't bother, because you destroy chainsaw blades for the amount of wood you get. It's just pathetic to the amount of chainsaw resharpening you got to do, and the cost of wearing out said chainsaw chains. So yeah, I just thought I'd throw that one in there for you. There's a little bit of experience about my weeds, but oh God blimey, I'm fighting 50 years of neglect on weeds. I'm fighting my uncle who used to say that, but it's habitat for the birds and all this sort of stuff. And there's a lot of local people that realise I've made massive inroads towards it. And I've been told that other people locally are commenting on the fact of the amount of work I've put into it. They can see it from the road, apparently. So yeah, that's good to know that the word's got out that I do give a crap about cleaning up the mess of weeds that have been left by previous lazy generations.